And joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor, also Vice President of Russia and Ukraine at the U.S. Institute of Peace. Ambassador, thanks so much for being with us today. I wanted to play you a little piece of sound and talk on the other side because it's really interesting to hear what the president had to say about White House envoy Steve Witkoff's meeting with Russia this week. Let's listen.
Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, maybe going to Russia. They would like to see him.
All right. So what do you expect from this meeting? And, do you think that Putin will agree to some sort of ceasefire before Trump's deadline? We've seen this before. What do you think?
We have seen this before, Laura. You're exactly right. But this is the first time that Steve Witkoff has been in Moscow since President Trump has really changed his tone. President Trump has realized since Witkoff was last in Moscow that President Putin is not serious. Trump has realized that Putin has been playing him along, is not serious about wanting to stop the war. And so I do believe that this new message on this visit from Steve Witkoff to the Kremlin, probably talking to Putin, will be different from the last time he was there. Last time he was there, it was pretty sweet. This time it's going to be pretty tough. And I believe President Trump is serious about putting those sanctions on.
Yeah. As we know, the president sent 2 nuclear submarines into regions near Russia. We've been watching this very closely, and it's, I wanted to ask you about the announcement of that, but also let's take a listen to what the Kremlin said. They prefer to engage in debates and are extremely cautious with any statements regarding nuclear issues. Here's the quote. And they do not see the submarines are escalation. So, what is your attack on this stance from the Kremlin after the former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, escalated war with these words with Trump? How do you see it?
Well, Laura, Medvedev is not a serious player in the Kremlin. He was a former president when Putin was the prime minister, but Medvedev is more of a spokesperson, a loud mouth, really. It's not even clear he's that close to Putin. So I don't think we should pay much attention to what he says. And it sounds like Putin may have told Medvedev to pipe down. I think President Trump may have gotten their attention. That this is serious. And again, Witkoff is going to have that same message when he shows up in Moscow.
We've been looking for some clarification exactly what these submarines have on them, how they're powered and all of that. The subs can carry dozens of Trident missiles with multiple nuclear warheads. If Putin doesn't come to an agreement to end the war, when you take a look down the path, do you foresee these staying near Russia and an announcement that they will? How else could Trump really use these to pressure Putin?
So President Trump, I don't think was using these nuclear submarines and even the threat of moving them closer to Russia as pressure on Putin to resolve the issue on Ukraine. What President Trump was doing was telling Putin and Medvedev, pipe down. And I think he has made that message, and I think that message is received. No, the real pressure on Putin, on Ukraine, is not the nuclear subs. It's the sanctions, and even more, Laura, even more pressure is coming from the weapons that President Trump is now sending via the NATO allies to Ukraine. That's the serious pressure he's putting on Putin.
Yeah, and he's making it known. The president also says he plans to impose sanctions on Russia if no deal is made, again, with these deadlines. The head of Zelensky's office wrote that he urges the U.S. to strangle Russia's economy because sanctions against them are working. So when you take a look at that, I mean, how big is this field? What sort of sanctions need to be imposed to have the impact that Ukraine is hoping for? What could it be?
It could be serious sanctions and less sanctions actually on Russia itself. What these sanctions that President Trump's been talking about, and 85 senators in the United States Senate, 85 are ready to put these serious sanctions on Russia, and more importantly, on those nations, China and India, who buy oil from Russia. And the pressure is meant to put on those 2 nations to stop buying oil from Russia, which will reduce the money, the funds that go into the Russian economy that funds the war machine. So it's important that that the Russians get the message that they either come to the table or their customers are going to stop buying oil from them.
Yeah. Also, the president had posted that he said he's raising tariffs on India, too, because it is buying Russian oil, to your point about customers, and selling them on the open market for profit, not caring how many people are being killed in the war. Do you think that tariffs and sanctions can limit those oil sales? Is this going to work?
I think it could. I think it really could. We've already seen some indications, some reports that the Indian importers are already reducing the amounts of oil that they bring in from Russia. And that could have a big effect. There's plenty of oil on the market. The Saudis, the OPEC, has raised oil production. So there's oil on the market that the Indians could switch to. The Indians used to only buy 1% of their oil from Russia. Now it's about 33%. So they've raised it way up. They can go back down. They can go back down and stop buying the Russian oil, and that hurts the Russian economy.
You know, Putin has said that he's open to peace talks. We're curious how open he is, right? But he says the war is in Russia's favor right now and is showing no signs of wanting to speak with Zelensky in person to make a deal. That's what he has said. We know that it seems like they're getting closer to that. But what do you think needs to happen to get Putin to the table, or will he get there at all?
He could get there when he understands he can't win. When he understands he can't win, when he understands that President Trump is serious about these sanctions, when he understands that President Trump is serious about providing weapons to Ukraine over the long term, if necessary, then Putin will understand that he can't win. When he comes to that conclusion, he'll come to the table. He has to kind of pull out something. And the only way you can do that is come to the table and have the conversation with President Zelensky and probably President Trump and maybe President Erdogan. So there are ways that these pressures can be put on Putin to bring him to the table.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're here with us to talk us through it all. Ambassador Bill Taylor, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.